All right. Well, session 6 is the workshop around maturity. Remember the information that we have provided yesterday. It's a $550 million construction project. It's a scientific facility in Greenland. It's got 4 primary sub-projects or scopes of work: demo, water tank, outside plant infrastructure, and a new airfield, core facilities, including a new large facility. It started in September 2021. Supposed to end late 2027, and we're currently at 90% design complete. The workshop B handout, which has even more information about this project, as well as our assignment for today. If you recall, the customer is coming in to conduct a review, a formal review in 3 months, and you are asked to conduct your own internal informal review in preparation for that. So you can anticipate perhaps and prepare a little bit better. Yesterday, you conducted the environment assessment. Today, you're going to conduct the maturity assessment. So we're working on that component, and you're almost there. You've assessed 53 of the 56 attributes. You got 3 left. So similar to how we did it yesterday, right? Now, keep in mind, generally, we're looking at this in an actual session. We're doing these in order. Right, we're going from A1 all the way to J2 in order. We're not doing it exactly like that today. We left 3 attributes out and gave you the context with the other attributes. That's an assessment that has been completed. So you'll have the information for the remaining 53. You need to focus on 3 today. And you know the following about maturity, EVMS maturity for this particular project. To start, there's no common coding structure between the WBS and the OBS. There are disconnects across different control accounts. There's weak integration between schedule and other subsystems, particularly budgeting and planning. So schedule isn't very well integrated with other systems. And the team isn't exactly sure about prime contract requirements around EVMS. So there wasn't a whole lot of clarity there. Risks related to cost, schedule, and technical risks when it comes to subcontractor data and charge number structures. So these are some things that you're not exactly sure of. You and your team are not exactly sure of. You'll find again some more detail around this in the PDF. You can double click on that in the chat if you haven't downloaded it already. And at the end of it, there's 3 appendices. Appendix A is your maturity score sheet that shows the scores for the other attributes, except for the 3 that you're going to be focusing on today. It also shows the gaps that were identified by your team for the 53 or so attributes that have already been evaluated. Again, that gives you some context. And finally, it gives you the descriptions for the 3 maturity attributes, 3 only, that we are assessing today, starting with A4. So that's what's in front of you. And our instructions are as follows. We'd like you to answer 3 particular questions. The first one is, let's apply the tool, particularly the maturity component of the tool, on this fictitious project. And we'd like you to complete your assessment for 3 attributes: A4, C5, and I1. Again, the descriptions are shown in Appendix C of the handout that you have in front of you. Once we're done with that, we'd like you to calculate what's the total project's maturity score and discuss what does that mean. Where are we? We're at 90% complete in terms of design. How does that score increase our risk? What does that level of maturity tell us? What are some key risks, actually? And so that's kind of the second question there.
Yeah, so you'll actually have the entire evaluation of all 56 attributes, other than the 3 that you've done. We tried to do as much math as we can. I know it's really high-level math, but it's just summations and things. And then you can kind of play around with the NAs in the tool. It's not necessarily that you do that. I think the raw score is fine, but it gives you an idea of, are they at 300 or 500 or 700 or whatever they are. So just go ahead and do a little bit of the math, and you'll see how the software does it that way.
That's exactly right. And finally, based on what you come up with, what are the maturity attributes that you're not comfortable with? How would you resolve them? What are some recommendations or corrective actions for that particular project. Keep in mind, you got 3 months before that customer comes in and does the formal review. So what would you want to do to set yourself up for success in that review? So these are the 3 questions that we ask, that we focus on today in our time together.
We evaluated 3 of the attributes. Then we finished calculating the score, so we'll talk through that. And then where did you think the project was in terms of overall? And then what do you think about the future? What are the things that you really would probably focus on next as we go? So METRR is actually opening up the software, the same software package as yesterday. You can see again, we've completed the environment assessment. As you see there, the status is completed. Maturity is in progress. Everything has been done except for those three particular attributes. And so why don't we go to the first of those 3, which is A4. And as we move forward in this, so let's go to A4. It's not been done yet. So we'll come back to this in a little while. So do we have a team that would like to kind of talk through what you came up with on this? Do we have a volunteer team? Someone?
I'll volunteer. I think I'm group 4, only because I want to be
good. Yeah. So you guys thought it was a 2, right?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So what were the big issues for you guys?
So just looking at kind of some of the comments that were higher up, the team identified there was no common coding structure between WBS and OBS. So that was a big indicator for us. I think some other bullets were weak or not at all integration between schedule and other subsystems. So yeah, exactly. METRR is highlighting those specific items out of 2 that we thought were issues. So it was kind of quickly clear to us based on those few bullets that it was the 2.
Yeah. So hopefully you call it what METRR did. It says show details. You can, so the top part is above the line, the bottom part, you can show those details and using the tool. It's kind of nice. So we'll hide the details again. So basically, common coding structure not in place and poor integration is basically what you said. Other teams, what do you think? Did team 4 do a good job?
Yeah, so team 3, or also known as the mean team, we were originally, we were thinking, how can you even have a RAM if you don't have the proper coding for your WBS and OBS, right? So, but after, deliberation, we came down to scoring a 2. So we were feeling nice today and gave it a 2. There's no common structure, coding structure. There's weak to no integration at all. I think recommendations is, establish that common structure, then review the artifacts for accuracy so that all elements align, right? So that you remove those disconnects from your control account level.
Okay, super. Other teams, were they all online, or anybody think they were a lot better?
No, team 2 had a score of 2 as well. Excuse me, team 1 had a score of 2 as well.
Okay, team 1 and
Team 2 also have a score 2, but we were told by Dr. Gibson that we were the best team. So short the other teams.
I told the other team they were too. So
he said team 4 was the best.
That's what he told us. I'm just kidding, guys.
All right, super. So everybody kind of consensus level 2, a lot of work to be done here on this one. So let's move on to C5. And we'll review answers. We'll have to go to C, and it would be C5. And so we'll edit that. Do we have a team that would like to volunteer? Maybe not number 4. Another team that would like to kind of talk through what they thought.
What's wrong with team number 4, Ed?
Well, you guys did the first one, so
Team 2 can take that one. We gave them a 5 on that one. Maximum. I mean, when we look at the data they provide us, and this element just go this level right now just for the element of cost. element, and all of those were there. We look at the definitions, and every single item was there. I mean, they have review monthly, and they have the assign all source codes, and they have cap by EOC. So all the elements were there. So we provide them a 5 on that one.
Okay, all right. So let's ask other teams what they thought.
Yeah, I'm with you on that comment. You're way too nice. The reason why we didn't score them a 4 was because as part of their monthly process, those details of optimization weren't part of it, right? So they weren't looking to publish their routine surveillance results or optimize. So we
Okay, so
gave them
you gave them a 4 instead of a 5?
Yeah, we gave them a 4. That was
Okay.
the deal breaker between a 4 and a 5.
Okay, so say that again, your rationale.
They do have a monthly review process, but as part of that monthly review process, the details of whether or not they were trying to seek optimization, and one of my teammates brought up that they weren't publishing the routine surveillance event results.
Okay, all right. So team 3 gave them a 4.
Yep.
All right. So let's see what the tiebreaker is. Team 1, what do you think?
We were kind of in the same line with team 4 with, we said it was a 4, and the differentiation had to do with the routine surveillance results as well. That was kind of the between 4 and 5, what would push them over the mark, and it was those DDMs, and we didn't see evidence of that.
No, it's teams 1 and 3, I think, right? Is that right?
What were you team 1?
We're team 1.
Yep,
I don't know.
All right. So team 4, what did you think?
Yeah, we gave them a 4 as well. And,
Okay.
and same comments, team 3. Another way that kind of I look at scoring a 5 is really, best in class.
Okay.
As far as going above and beyond 4, you know the requirements, but based off like the check marks and stuff that we saw in the precursor for the attribute, what they evaluated, didn't see anything saying they were going above and beyond of what the minimal requirements were, in really, meeting that attribute, if you will.
Okay. All right. Super. So we had 3 teams give them a 4 and 1 give them a 5. Sorry, team 2. We're going to back this down to a 4. Any questions or comments around that? I mean, you're kind of looking at, are you going beyond this? And again, remember, we kind of narrowed things down on 4 as being in compliance. They obviously have a system. They have a lot of things going for them. Let's take it to the next level. That's kind of what you're saying, right? Teams 1, 3, and 4. All right, super. Any comments from team 2? Anything? You still are my favorite team, sort of. So let's go on to the next one. I1. We'll go back up here and move to I1. And I think we have to save this first, and then we'll go to I1. I1 is subcontract management. So do we have a team that would like to volunteer to do subcontract identification and requirements flow down? Any team would like to go first on that one?
I think 4 wants to go first.
Okay.
Then. 4. Okay. Yeah, we gave them a 2. We saw the check marks for what was considered. But when it says kind of near the bottom, there was 3 stating that they weren't sure of the requirements, cost schedule, technical risks with subcontractor data, and charge number structure. And looking at the factors leading, major, minor subcontractor flow down requirements not separately identified. That I know we're talking about, it says the team wasn't sure of the prime contract requirements, but if you don't know the prime contract requirements, how could you flow those down? Also not distinguish between their subcontractor work scope when requesting performance data, cost schedule, technical risk with subcontractor data. How do we know where to separate?
Okay. All right. So basically they had started this, but there really were lots of things that they needed to nail down. So,
yeah, that was our opinion. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was team 4. Do we have someone from teams 3, 2, and 1? So team 3.
Yep, the mean team, but I think we're going to hand the mean crown. We actually gave them a 3.
All right.
This go around. We've flowed it's all about requirements flow. And I think this is where the team had most of the debate because we're looking at I2 and, and I3 on there. This is all about requirements flow. So we've flowed them all the appropriate requirements. We can assume that they've got a robust risk process based on, hey, the requirements that we flowed down, but are we receiving that? Is the question. And so we can't really get through I's 3 and 4 or give a good score for I3 or 4 if we're not receiving what we need for integration and for management. So
okay, that's a good point. And in reality, this is kind of I call it a hokey exercise because we're cherry picking 3 attributes out of 56. And so you would have heard everything that started and you would have had all these discussions before now, up until you get to I1. We asked that you kind of go in order. So, and plus you guys would have also known a lot more about the project. So yeah, so that's reasonable taking a look at the other ones. All right. So team 2, what did you think?
We said also number 2. We
Okay.
get them a 2. And the reason for that one is, based on information provided by a source not identified at this moment, and we look for the word consider at the beginning. The first sentence, consider, means, hey, we don't actually know if they're doing it or not. And based on that consideration of that word, we couldn't decide if they actually flow down the information to the subcontractor or not. And based on what the data was given to us in the entries, we feel that there is major gaps there.
Okay,
to
so
provide subcontractor information. So
all right, so 1 and 3 say 2 right now. So
no, that was 1 and 4. 3 said he was really nice and said they have a 3. Somebody give a volleyball today.
What was the other team? What's the other team? I'm confused. What was the other team? Who hasn't talked?
Well, we didn't say anything yet, but team 1, we were also in grading it as a 2.
All right,
We
so
didn't
teams
have the
1, 2,
appropriate
and
information,
4.
I think, to reiterate what the other team said.
All right, so team 3 got overruled here. So we're going to stay with a 2. And obviously at this point, you're doing this and you don't know a lot of the information. It could be a 3. So what, the gaps that you've identified, you go out and find out, are those true gaps? And maybe you didn't have enough information to make the right decision. In this case, you were being conservative, right? You were making it a lower score than perhaps it is, but at least at this juncture point, you do know what the gaps of your knowledge are, and that can lead you to figuring out where they really are. So yeah, good call, guys.
And Ed,
any other comments from the teams on these?
just to follow up on what you just said here, Ed, particularly when in this situation where it's an internal review, I err on the side of being conservative too, right? If I don't have the data to make sure it's a 3 or it's a 4,
Right.
then we have 3 months to go and get that, and before the customer comes in for their real review.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're giving it a score, you're giving it a mark, but what's really important is what you've determined you need to find out in the gaps that you've identified. And, in some cases you identify a gap and you go out and look into it and it's really not a big issue. In other cases, it leads into a situation where this is a lot worse than we even thought during the assessment. So, the real key here is to highlight it as something to look at, go look at it afterwards and take it on. So that's kind of where we are. So anyway, so we did the evaluation. Your next piece was really to look at calculating the project's total score. And so I think we have to go to the very end and submit and generate the report, don't we? All right, so let's ask what was your score? So we'll just go team 1. What was your score? Total score?
We had 673.
Okay, team 2, what was yours?
645.
Okay, team 3.
It was 677 or 78.
Okay, team 4.
You want the weighted or unweighted score, Ed?
Well, I think we got both the weighted and unweighted in some of the answers. So just give me what you guys came up with.
All right, so our weighted was 651.
Okay, all right. So somewhere around where we have it right here. And a lot of it depends on how you scored, certainly. But if you notice here, this is the output. You know, we've gone through this entire thing. We've put in the maturity levels of all 56 attributes, including the NA. It actually calculates the adjusted score and takes out the not applicable ones, right? As we go through. So it's not the raw score. So the score was 673 based on where we're doing. We did this ahead of it. And so anyway, you can see where that would mean. You're in the developing stage to the right. You know, the organization is developing. It's aware of the gaps, you know, and so on and so forth. It's between 500 and 700. It's more like almost touching 700. So the team is on the right trail from a maturity perspective. Let's move on down. You'll see that this gives you an idea of the things to work on. Certainly there are no level ones. Everything is started. There are a couple of, there are a few that are at level 2, including a couple that we actually rated that way. There are a few at level 3 and then 4 and 5. So it gives you an idea, you know, if you're going to really focus in on stuff on this one, I probably would start with 2s and 3s first, you know, as we move forward. So let's move on down. So it gives you an idea. So not a bad looking chart there. And then you can see that this gives you how you're doing across all of the different sub-processes. In organizing, if you look at this one, we've got integrated system with common structures is the one that seems to be a problem. And it gets down to integration. I think we can kind of we can go through these one at a time real quickly. Maybe what we do is go to C next. Let's go to budgeting and work authorization. We actually did C5. And so you can see that we're doing pretty well on many of these, but we've got, you know, scope, schedule, and budget alignment is one of the issues. You know, the work package piece in the middle, the measurable units and budget substantiation. Those are things that we certainly at this point might want to focus in on and look at the gaps that we have. And let's go to I1 too, because that was one of the ones that we did as well. So can we go to I? METRR. And so if we looked at the one, we did I1, and so we're down there on the left. Can you hover over that and show what the, I think it's, where was the hovering? Yeah, so, you know, so this kind of gives the scores that you would have, right? As you move forward. The assessment score was a 17. So we were between level 3 and 4. Let's go down to I1. That's the one we actually set up. So you can see we scored 7 points. Not really sure how that worked, but we'll figure that out. But basically we've got a score for our particular project here as we move forward. Let's go back or go on down, I think, or it's the next thing as well. So let's go. All right, let's go to.
Want to see the tables?
Let's go to see the tables. Yeah. So again, we were working in sub-process A. You can see that you know, A1, A2 are pretty good. A3, A4 in particular needs work. A5, A4 was one we actually evaluated. And you can see our notes that we put in right there. If you go on down, let's go down, let's move down. You can see some of the other commentary. Let's move down to C's. And you can see that C5 is one that we actually evaluated. We gave it a 4. And you can see the notes that we actually put in here. It scored 12, a maximum of 16 points. So we're doing pretty well on this one. Let's move on down and we'll go to I1. So you can see all of this, and you can also look at the color codes to the left. I1, we felt like it was a 2, all but one team. And we've got the comments here with that as well. And you can see we scored 5 out of 19 points. So we left some points on the table there, but it also shows us this is a gap as we move forward. Lots of 4s and 5s here, but we also had a few things that were kind of low as well. So that kind of gives us an idea of where we are. So let's go down through the teams. You did this analysis, you scored 670, whatever, around that point. So team 1, what was your overall opinion of this at that point? What was your opinion?
Well, I think our opinion is that the project is on its way to having a good system to provide data, but there are definitely some key areas of risk that we need to focus in on. And one is to make sure that we have the appropriate data and the systems are talking correctly to each other. We got to get that integration issue fixed.
Right.
So there's some areas that risk that need to be addressed relatively quickly. And the other two, maybe not as significant, but I think that data integration issue is going to be what's going to keep them from getting over into that maintaining appropriate and having a well-developed system.
Super. Very, very good, team one. Team two, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we understand. I mean, the numbers are showing, I mean, 645, you're going for a total of 952. They are going in the right direction, but we did have identified two areas that are very critical that I think need to be addressed. And there was the number 2 level for the IMS resources, and then number 2 for the integration, scope, schedule, and budget alignment. I mean, there are two critical areas. If you have IMS without any resources, I mean, that's a big gap right there. And not having integration of all your systems between cost, schedule, and budget, I mean, how you can actually go there and say, my system is good, providing me the right information. So those two areas we feel that are very important and critical. Even they showing a good number of 4s and 5s, they have to take care of those two areas. So
Okay,
that's
super.
our
Very good.
assessment.
Very good, team two. Team three, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think a common thread throughout is the lack of coding or a common coding, right? And that's really the foundation for everything. And so if I was a program manager, or if I was a customer, I would recommend another review once they get that coding corrected, because that really is the foundation for everything else.
Okay, super, super. Team four, anything else to add?
Yep.
Great
Hey,
comments.
Can you hear me, Ed? I got my
Yeah,
headphones on. Yeah, no, definitely agree with everyone else has said. I mean, without that common coding structure, really, I think that kind of reverberates the entire system. Now scope is missing. We've got into the subcontractors a little bit. I mean, it just flows throughout the entire system. It's all integrated. So I think that's a common theme. I agree with that.
Okay, super. So you guys kind of, the nice part about this helps you diagnose kind of where maybe the weaknesses are in your system. And it sounds like you got all kind of diagnosed very similar things as you went through this. So let me just throw this question out. The last question really is, what do you do next? I mean, you've talked about what you're not comfortable with, and some of those are cross-cutting across several attributes, obviously. So what do you do next? Somebody want to jump in and say, what do you do next? I can call.
Well, I think you need to clean some of this up and maybe do another trial run before 3 months.
Yeah. So
rescore.
Yeah. So you've got all these gaps. And so you take these gaps and you develop action lists, right? And you assign people or sub teams to actually work those. So you try to clean this up, and then you come back together and either do an entire assessment again, or maybe you just focus on the things that were problematic during your last assessment, right?
Yep.
Sound pretty reasonable? So, the big thing is to take action. The tool is nothing more than to give you an idea of where you are and really what you should actually be working on. It doesn't do any of the work for you. So you got to go do that work to get it to where you want it to be as you move forward. So I think, you guys, it sounds like you're all on the right track. This is where we were this day at this point in time, based on the best knowledge that we have within our team. And so let's go find out if, number one, sometimes were we really right in terms of our assessment? Number two, how can we fix this? How can we make sure that these things do? And we also, at the same time, would really want to be working on our environment piece as well, right? So why don't we look at an overall evaluation, because we're looking at maturity here. So let's look at overall. Remember, we did environment yesterday. And so when we looked at an overall, we had a 539 in terms of our environment yesterday, and we scored 673 in terms of our maturity. And so what that shows us is that we're doing pretty well, but we're in the orange band, right? And based on the results that we had from our research, on average, those projects that were in the orange band didn't do very well versus their cost estimate at 20% complete. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We're going to kind of wrap things up in terms of where those numbers are. So you're doing pretty well. And certainly you're doing better on maturity than you are on environment. Excuse me. But there's room for improvement. So you'd want to work those things on the environment, and you'd want to work those things in maturity, right? In that regard. So any questions about that?
Not a question, but just a comment. You know, thinking about the environment and maturity, how much of those are related, right? You're talking about, you know, you don't have training or you don't have a customer that understands EVM. Maybe that's why we don't have the right coding in place, right? So I think step one to fix the program or to help the program is to get the right people and SMEs in place to fix all of that, right?
Yeah.
Just a comment.
Yeah, I think you're right on track. I think, you know, certainly, I think the biggest thing that we learned out of the research, and we'll show that in just a moment, is that maturity is a function of the environment. That was kind of an eye-opening thing that we saw as we went through our research, and we're capturing data on how good the environment is and how good the maturity is and how that related to performance. It's really hard to have a mature working system that's doing what it's supposed to if you have those environmental issues. So that's a great comment. You guys hit all of these. You did really well, you know, in terms of the assessment recommendations. This is the teacher's version of this that we set up. And this is exactly what you guys came up with. So either we led you to the right place or you led us to the right place. But I think you kind of hit a lot of these as we move forward. And certainly these are all things that are workable.